boy.
Love that symbol. I gotta tell you.
Yeah, we got to thank Rhodes Casters for that. I'm not that creative, David. You know that. It's Friday, noon somewhere in the world, and another rant closing up the week. Welcome, everybody, to the Rant Network, a platform with a forthright, uncensored dialogue hosted by myself and that gray-haired guy, David Solomon, sitting to my right. You know, from time to time, we find current events, sometimes political events, cultural trends, and basically evolving fabrics of modern life. Each episode, we deliver a conversation, honest opinion, and a willingness to challenge the conventional media. We invite you to take a seat and engage us and experience a thoughtful debate that encourages and reflects every perspective. You know, in the green room, as we so commonly call it, which is basically the two schmucks like us sitting in the chat before we come on and hit the live button. Chit-chatting about what should we talk about today? Well, we sort of muddled over Trump derangement syndrome. If something's wrong, it's all Trump's fault. If something's right, there's an act of God that has nothing to do with Donald Trump. They cannot get past Trump derangement syndrome. It's just not going to end. It's just too much. The same way the Hamas terrorist organization won't return dead bodies. Now, you know, I thought I've heard crazy stuff before with this terrorist organization that acts like the 7th century in the modern era that doesn't get called out by CBC, BBC, or NBC, amongst others. It is frightening how a 7th century cult take holds in the United States with the insanity on the campuses. You don't see them rioting. Why are they murdering Christians in Sudan? You don't see rioting in the streets. Why don't they return the dead bodies and be where they're supposed to be in this peace agreement, or we'll just call it impasse agreement in the Middle East? You know, why in the world are paid protesters allowed to not be there when everyone else has to be there? You know, it's just confusing. You know, Soros is running out of money and doesn't want to continue to fight? Or is Soros just so antiquated, that old man, or is his son just so twisted? I don't know. Blame it on Soros kind of day I'm feeling today. How do you feel with little Carney in your corner of the world?
Oh, you got to get off the Carney. You got Carney derangement syndrome. Not that I like this guy. Not that I care for this guy. I think he hates Israel, and with all of his might, him and his foreign affairs minister Anita Nan, they just love to destroy in Israel, and they're very excited for themselves. And remember, let's go back to the month of September, Stuart. How many nations stood at the podium and said, "We recognize a Palestinian state"? Remember that? That included Canada. That included UK, France. You included a lot of countries who stood there and wanted to. They said, "It's time. It's time. It's time. It's time." All they'd said is, "It's time." But guess what? Indonesia, of all people, said, "Yeah, but slow down, people. We need to recognize Israel." Interesting how a guy who runs a Muslim country was the only one who stood there and had a mind to do so, while the rest of the Western world thought they were doing something with their woke, stupid ideology. And I say it's stupid because they went out there and became the colonizers that Israel, has been accused of, right? They're going to dictate to Israel what to do. Not Russia, not North Korea, nobody in Africa, clearly, only Israel. And Israel's right to exist has been in question. Look at every campus, look at these politicians. Israel doesn't have a right to exist from the river to the sea. That's all you hear again and again in universities, in all kinds of other circles. Stuart, a month ago, Donald Trump, the president, you said that everybody has derangement syndrome, comes out with a ceasefire deal. Now, funny enough, some media outlets wanted to give Joe Biden the credit that he took Joe Biden's framework, and it was Trump is taking credit. Once again, not focusing on the people that kept saying no to the deal was Hamas.
You know, David, it's like in a football game or a hockey game. The defenseman that grabs the puck and pitches it up to a bunch of forwards, and one of them finally scores. Who gets the score? Who gets the point, David? You know, listen, you know, I could say that this peace agreement goes back 50 years.
It's not peace agreement. Matter. Stop calling it what it isn't.
I know. I know. I didn't in the beginning, but I sort of threw in peace agreement. You know, this impasse agreement. You know, that's really what it is. It's just amazing how everyone likes to twist and turn.
Well, let me give you an example. Let me give you an example of twisting and turning. Right here we are, and you brought up sports, so let me bring up a sport for you, my friend. The Irish Soccer Association, or the Irish Football Association, has decided that Israel has no right to be in the European League. Now, Israel's not in Europe. Israel's in Asia. Okay, you can say, but they're in the Middle East. The Middle East, yes, is partly in Asia and partly in Africa. But Israel is in Asia and has never been allowed to play in Asia because of the Arab boycott, because of other reasons. And Europe took her in. And now these bastards in Ireland have decided that the only people to blame in this entire affair was Israel, and we're going to boycott her to death, including soccer. Now, you explain to me, when you have the Olympics where we brought people in the Cold War, Israel is being denied. She didn't attack like Russia did. She defended herself, and these bastards want to call to a vote to get rid of Israel. And it's interesting because one of the mantras of the soccer, the FIFA, which is the soccer overseeing body, is no racism. The worst racists out there towards Jews and Israel are coming out of Ireland. It doesn't matter. Stuart, I want to tell you something. When you have people like Paramount, I don't know if you heard what Paramount did, but Paramount, and my hat's off to them, decided that all those A-listers, B-listers, who all called for Israel's destruction, who all have made anti-Semitic remarks, are no longer going to be employed at Paramount. All those performers have no position there. Not Mark Ruffalo, not Tita from, I can't remember, a lot of these names that have prominently put themselves out as hardcore anti-Israel, anti-Semites. And they're very quiet, Stuart. What you said about the dead bodies, there's 3 dead bodies left, 3 hostages still to be returned. The ceasefire was a month ago. It was supposed to be done by now. All the bodies were supposed to be returned to go to phase 2. Phase 2 was going to start the rebuild of Palestine, as you guys like to call it. And there's not a single outcry from the people who, for the last 2 years or 26 months, let's call it 25 months, who have denounced Israel. Not a word, not a single word towards Hamas. Return the bodies, disarm, let's rebuild Gaza. No. Instead, it's let's shit on Donald Trump. No. Bibi's an overlord. No. Israel has no right to exist.
Or how about Bibi's invited into the Bronx or Brooklyn, where there's a large Jewish community, and they want to test Mandami after he takes the reins in January, if he's actually going to rest. And just as a back note, the owner of Paramount is actually now a Jew.
Who cares?
Right. So David Ellison basically had enough of all this crap.
But what's good for the goose, it's got to be good for the gander, buddy.
Well, most of these houses were all created by Jews.
Yeah, but it doesn't matter what was, because you see, this is the problem.
I know. It's like go to the Jewish General Hospital in Montreal.
But people want to rewrite history. Okay, so when it's convenient, blame the Jew. When it's inconvenient, blame the Jew. When it's just blame the Jew. We controlled the media. We controlled Hollywood. Remember those were the accusations. When Jews didn't control, we were blamed again. Now Ellison's there with Paramount and everything. They'll blame the Jew. Just watch. This is a derangement syndrome of greater proportions than that of Trump. It goes beyond because it encompasses Trump. It encompasses Bibi. If you are pro-Israel, you're part of you're in this. And so to see little fucker Carney, to see little fucker Farmer, to see little fucker Macron, to see little fucker Prime Minister of Spain, to see all these people who demand that Israel be delegitimized is unbelievable. It's amazing how they can spit from their mouths this woke ideology to help people, and then on the other side, they want to destroy a democratically built society and build up a terrorist society.
I just flip. David, here's this. We know what Israel has brought to the world and the Israelis. What have the Egyptians brought to the modern era?
You've repeated this so many times. It doesn't matter. It's irrelevant, Stuart, if the Arabs have very few Nobel Prizes. It's irrelevant if they've added nothing to society.
But I was talking about Egyptians. I was talking about Arabians.
No.
Don't.
My question is,
Egyptians, Lebanese, they're not Arabian.
What? Please tell me why. Not forget the Arabs. I don't care. You tell me why the Hollywood, the woke, hate Jews that much. And why do they keep getting away with it? The truth has been unveiled. The truth of what they stand for is so obvious. And there's no one condemning them in a harsh way to shut them down, including political leaders. When Donald Trump, who has smashed countries with tariffs, will smash Canada harder, the UK with something, France with something, because enough, you guys have created anarchy. And what's the left do? But Mr. Trump accepted a plane from Qatar. That is what we focus on.
Oh, well, hang on. He accepted a plane from Qatar, but not personally.
No.
On behalf of the U.S. government.
Hold on. I didn't say that they're
You left that out.
No, on purpose. No, on purpose, because
listen. I got something to tell you. Clinton accepted a blowjob from Lewinsky. So, wow. I'm like, wow.
I don't know.
I just got to throw that in there. I just got to put that out there.
You should be part of the debate. That was great.
Biden accepted, but he can't remember what he accepted. So he wanted to ask for some advice.
But here's the thing. I'm going to ask you a question, because you love to mock people, but you're mocking the wrong people. I think you're mocking right now. It's time to go after, the media houses like an MSNBC, a CNN. I mentioned this before. Van Jones has been pro-Israel, stands around with a yellow pin, and has distanced himself from CNN's policies because they continue to be off the charts anti-Israel. But it's amazing how they'll fight for all these radical ideologies, but a democracy they're not willing to fight for. If you really care for the people of Gaza, like you all say you do, why haven't you called Hamas out on the agreement? Because you don't. You did it with Oslo in the 90s. You didn't call Arafat out. You called out Israel. Every time Israel makes an offer to the Palestinians, you don't call out the Palestinians. You call out Arafat. You call out Israel. You call out Israel all the time because all you want is her to be destroyed. And you know what? She ain't going nowhere. Israel is going to stand for what she believes in. It is the Jewish homeland. And when you look at the map of the world, at this tiny little strip of land called Israel, that's hardly the size of New Jersey, and you look at all of her neighbors, and you're calling Israel the colonizer, you got to ask yourself a question. Have you any fucking common sense at this point, or are you just a hater?
David, good news. It's still Friday. All right, everybody, that concludes this episode of the Rat Network. We really appreciate your time, continued support, your participation. It enables us to be these monsters. We love being these truth monsters, these media exposers, and God knows what else. Every Monday, Wednesday, Friday, noon Eastern. Take us down on any of our verticals, catch our little minis, but check out the full broadcast.